Both Woo! How about that one?
That's our new leaders right there.
Big Silly!
University of Montevallo, 24-96. National champions, Wallace State, Briar and Clinton. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the latest episode of the Rapala We Are Collegiate Bass Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Curry, back from vacation, back from ICAST. Had an event take place just a couple weeks ago, the MLF Central Regional on the Mississippi River. Today's guests are going to be the winners of that tournament, Logan Russell and Trevor Schleich from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. Logan, let's bring you in here real quick, man. Big win for the team. Earns 1,250 points, 1,250 points to count towards the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abba Garcia. We'll talk about how well your other team did later and what that means for y'all in that race. Let's start just with the raw emotion. Big win, big stage out on the major collegiate bass fishing trail. Talk about what that victory means to you and the team.
It's really an awesome thing to have done. Like, you always dream about doing it as a kid. You never really think that you'll get up there, but we made it happen, and I really don't know what to say. I'm still kind of speechless on we won a big tournament like that, and just coming from a small town, Nebraska, we don't really have any lakes to fish or big tournaments like that. So it's an awesome thing to do, and it was an awesome thing to see. So raw emotion, it was just one heck of a time.
University of Nebraska, a team that you don't necessarily hear a lot of or about out on the college trail, but good noise for the team. One of the first events of the year, good start to the season for y'all here. Trevor, talk a little bit about what it means to start the season off on a good foot. We'll talk about the significance of that to the School of the Year race later on in this interview, but one of the first events of the year, school hasn't even started yet, and y'all have got a win under your belt that's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it feels awesome. Just kind of like what Logan hit on. It's a great feeling. Everything that happened, it all unfolded so quick, and we're glad to have the opportunity to sit down and kind of digress about and talk about the specifics, but it feels pretty dang good.
So let's talk some about those specifics now. Logan, start with just the pattern coming out of practice. If you were able to practice into the tournament day, what were y'all focusing on there at the Mississippi River in that section that you're on? There's some action out on the main river. You get into some backwaters. There's a lot of vegetation. There's some rock. There's some wood. You name it. A little bit of something for everybody, not to mention the combination of smallmouth and largemouth as well. Talk a little bit about the pattern and what y'all focused on to get the winning bites as y'all sacked up 16 pounds, 9 ounces to take the victory.
Yeah, so first day of practice, we went to pool 7, and we struggled really, really hard, and we just could not figure anything out. So day 2 of practice, we went in pool 8, and we just kind of located some fish. We had 3 spots that we mainly hit, and we had a number spot with some heavy vegetation, topwater frogging, stuff like that. We had another spot with numbers with quality mixed in. So that's what that was all about. We were throwing everything in there. It was just like rocks and just underwater rock and stuff like that, and current. That first spot with the frogs, that was all like backwater, stagnant water. But the second spot with quality and numbers, that was current. And we had a big spot to catch big fish, and it was in the main river current. And we didn't have really too many bites there, but we knew we were going to bite. There were going to be some big ones, and that's exactly what we did. And we threw big jigs in there, and that's how that worked out. So we got our number spot out the frogs. Didn't really work out like we wanted to in practice, but in the tournament still just didn't pan out for us. We got a couple keepers, and the number spot with quality did exactly that. We caught our numbers. We caught shorts. We caught 2 good quality ones. We went the 1-2 punch. We were throwing T-rig worm, dragging on the bottom, and I was throwing a square bill around in there and mix in with a little bit of jig action. That's what we caught them on, and then we proceeded to go down to our main river spot for big fishing, and we hit the right one on the head and with the jig, and that's how it went.
Sounds like a little bit of junk fishing there. One-day tournaments like this for these regionals, you go out there, try a little bit of anything, and you just got to catch them for one day of what y'all did. And, you hear a lot of times out there on the Mississippi River, especially watching the major tournaments at the professional level, these guys, man, they kind of hunker down in one area, and they're fishing this square region of grass and throwing a frog and similar terrain and territory throughout the day. You guys run a little bit of everything. Trevor, was that y'all listening to the fish, kind of what they were feeling that day and what they needed you to do to be able to get them to bite, or was that the game plan coming out of practice was just to run all over the place and scramble like heck to catch the winning bag?
No, so the funny part is this was just us, kind of figuring out what we were seeing on the water. I've had a lot of tournaments that I've done, and you're almost doing research for days before, for weeks before. It's like you're studying to prepare for a test. And I'll get pretty fixated and I want to catch them a particular way. What we did this time is we fished the backwater at first, what Logan said on day 7, or on pool 7 on the first day of practice. We maybe had one bite the entire day. So that second day, we just threw everything out the window, and it was junk fishing 101 is what it turned into. We had no idea, what we were going to catch them on and where we were going to catch them. We just decided that we wanted to fish everything. And we started doing that, then we had our one conventional spot that was in the backwater, how you can catch numbers. And our 2 other spots, well, one's on a river. Logan and I both were not river guys. This was one of the only rivers I've ever fished. And our other spot was in some current as well. So that was our biggest advantage, is that when we were fishing everything, we found those 2 spots. And what we discovered was the bigger fish were holding in the current, not in the backwater.
We're talking with Logan Russell and Trevor Schleich, winners of the MLF Central there on the Mississippi River from University of Nebraska at Lincoln, located kind of in the dead center of the country and kind of on that fine line of you're right there in the middle. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, somewhere around Texas, Oklahoma, up to you guys, between there west until you get to California, Arizona, and the Pacific Northwest. Collegiate competitive bass fishing, it's kind of a no-man land. There's not a lot of tournaments to make it out that way. There's not a lot of bodies of water to fish. Logan, let's kind of wrap up our talk on this tournament here, and Trevor said something similar, but was there anything maybe from back around home around school that played a factor into what y'all did? He said y'all weren't necessarily familiar with rivers. I know there's a few major rivers that flow through Nebraska heading on south. Is there maybe a little bit of experience y'all had with current or different types of cover or the way these fish set up? Was there anything that benefited y'all to help get the win, or was this kind of a first time learning experience out on the Mississippi River for you?
This was definitely a first time experience for me fishing on the river. I mean, we got all these rivers back home, and I live right between the 2 major rivers in Nebraska, and we do every kind of fishing, but there's no bass fishing in them. So I kind of knew, I know how the river kind of works and how the fish lay up in them and how the current makes holes and what they like to do behind, a current breaks and stuff like that. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that the bass would just mix right in with all the other kind of species of fish in the river. So, I mean, definitely a first for me and for bass fishing at the river, but it kind of just all relates to kind of the same way of all, most of the predatory fish work in the river system.
Trevor, in preparation for this interview, we were talking off the phone, and you had something you want me to bring up here. I'll let you take the floor to answer this. You hadn't fished in a bass tournament in a couple of years. Talk a little bit about the story behind that and how you got to this point to where you're out competing on a major college level and you got this win.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Nebraska my freshman year. You know how that is. Your freshman year, you're taking elective classes. Nothing gets real serious. You're not taking anything major specific yet. So what I would like to say is a lot of easier classes. So I had a lot more time and opportunity to get out and fish. My freshman year, I fished 3 tournaments, and we did okay. We probably finished middle of the pack, had some good ones, had some one that kind of slipped away. Then I transferred to Texas Tech, and at Texas Tech, I joined the bass fishing team, but classes got tough and didn't have the opportunity to get out there. So really, I picked up on hunting. I spent a lot of time out there in the fields hunting waterfowl, and that was kind of my passion. Once you start doing that for a while, I started missing fishing again. So I had the opportunity to go to grad school at the University of Nebraska. This is my first year grad school, so I was able to rejoin the fishing team, and we were supposed to fish Table Rock, and things didn't work out. So Logan and I decided to come fish the Mississippi, and for whatever reason, I had a feeling that this would be the one that we're going to do good at. Just kind of how it goes. That it was very nonchalant about it. Like I said, there wasn't that much prep. But even tackle, I think Logan and I both bought all of our tackle 2 days before. I had a lot of rusty hooks, and I get my boat running, and I replaced the battery a day before. My boat hadn't been ran in over a year. So it's just been a long time. Normally in the spring and early summer, I'll fish hard, and then it gets on the hunting season. So this late in the summer, I'm from Texas, not fishing much. So it just turned out to be a great opportunity. And, how things worked out. It's a real blessing.
Shifting focus from that win now, let's talk about the team a little bit. We'll start by the significance of that victory for the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. So as we mentioned, your team there at University of Nebraska, not necessarily always in the national discussion, looking at the School of the Year standings and the top teams in the country. But at the moment, we're going to have the top 25 and the complete standings out here in just a few weeks. We got a few more events that we'll update with between now and then. But at the moment, as it stands, we've got them updated. A little inside look, though they're not fully public yet. You guys would be in 24th place. That event right there, y'all earned 1,250 points for the win. Your next highest finishing team, combine those 2-point totals together. Nebraska and Lincoln has 2,280 points on the season to be ranked 24th. Logan, knowing that information right there, man, how cool is it? That top 25 is kind of what everybody's shooting for, whether you're collegiate basketball, football, right here in bass fishing as it pertains to us. Being in that top 25, man, that's a big benchmark for a team that's not necessarily familiar to being in that position.
Yeah, this is my first year with the team, so I don't really get all the points and everything down yet, but yeah, just being ranked in the top 25 is just like any other sport, and everybody that strives for that. Not everybody's going to be winning national championships, but if you can get up in the top 25 and put your name out there, that's the best you can hope for. And like you said, we're in Nebraska. Our closest event is probably that one, which is like 6.5 hours away, and all the other ones are probably 10+ hours away, so it's hard for us to get out there and compete with all these other schools that have them in their back door.
Trevor, as you explained there in your previous answer just a question or two ago, talking about your relation to the school and involvement in the club, it's been a couple years that you've been gone, but you've probably paid some close attention. So over the last 4 or 5 years, explain the dynamic of the team there in Lincoln. What has it taken to grow the club to where it's at? Y'all had quite a few teams here, have a strong presence on social media. It's grabbed my attention for sure. Y'all a growing team. Talk a little bit about what's gone into getting to that point and what is the bass fishing team there at the University of Nebraska like?
Well, the guys at the club have done a great job. When I was fishing my freshman year, the most boats we had to determine I believe I fished 3 events, was 2 boats. Now I believe we had 5 or 6 just on the Mississippi. Used to the club meetings, there was 5 or 6 guys. Now, when I went back, there was over 30 people in the meeting. So for us, it's a big deal. Know anything about Nebraska, as Logan kind of hit on, we don't have that many lakes. What we have is, I just call them mud holes. They're just these big old ponds, and you go 5 miles per hour. It's a hard place to fish. Don't have fish. We don't have that much forage. It's just all mud for the most part. It's not a very diverse ecosystem. So it's been difficult to get it started. But from where we are now to where I kind of started with, where we've grown, we're 10 times bigger. So the guys have just done a good job. There's dynamics. There's leadership. We have quite a few boats too, and some of those guys are sticks. 2 guys, especially named Hunter and Kay, they've had great success. I think they've had 3 or 4 top 10 finishes. So guys like that are out recruiting people and getting more boats, and that's what it's all about. And we're going to continue the growth of the team.
That's awesome. I always like to follow teams that are kind of up and coming or on an upward trend as they start to figure things out and the pieces come together, get a big win. And, you're here on the podcast talking with us, and who knows what the rest of the season has to bring as you're in the top 25 looking forward. Logan, yourself mentioned that it's your first year on the team. How did you get there to the University of Nebraska Lincoln? Were you attracted by the bass fishing team? Was it a major or possibly another sport? Whatever brought you there to school. Talk about your process of ending up there and now joining the bass fishing team.
Yeah. So my first 2 years out of high school, I went to a local community college back home, and then I was chasing my bachelor's in accounting, so I transferred over to Lincoln, and this was my first year here in Lincoln, and I found the bass team, and I was like, hey, I love the passion, and that's what I do all the time, so I was like, why not join it? And I didn't think I'd probably do any tournaments or anything like that. I was just going to be on the club and do some local gigs and go to meetings and hang out, meet some new people, stuff like that, and little beyond old, I'm on the team and getting to travel with the guys, and we ended up winning a big tournament and putting our names out there.
That's awesome. As myself, I was keeping an eye on the club at where I went to school and college, and I was interested in it before I went there and had seen them, and they won a national championship the year before I came. That had me really interested. But deciding to join that club, be a part of that for 3, 4, 5 years while I was at school, it's one of the best things that I ever did, and I encourage that for anybody. Trevor, right here as we get ready to dismount and finish this interview, talk a little bit about how anyone that's listening, sponsors, anglers, high school students, parents, if anybody's interested in more information about the club, becoming involved, becoming a member in future years, how can they reach out to you guys? What's a good means of communication to be able to find out more information and get signed up going forward?
There's a couple of ways you can reach out. One of the best ways is just through social media. We have an Instagram account, I believe, for Husker Bass Anglers. Logan, is that correct?
Yep.
Husker Bass Anglers. Give them a follow. You can give them a DM, whatever works. Just give them a message. And, you don't need a fishing boat. You can be a good fisherman. You can be a great fisherman. You can just get started. Through the years, just by being on the team, you're going to improve a lot. We have a lot of fishing opportunities. We do bank fishing tournaments, get together. And it's also a brotherhood. All these guys, we've known each other for a while. And, we turn out to be quite good buddies over the years.
That's awesome. That's the end of our interview right there with Logan and Trevor, winners of the MLF Central at the Mississippi River, fishing for the University of Nebraska Lincoln fishing team. Go check them out, Husker Bass Anglers on Instagram. That's how I got a hold of them to be able to set up this interview. Guys, thanks for joining us here. Congratulations on that victory. Best of luck for the rest of the season as the year goes along.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Fishing is all about connecting with nature. Then grabbing nature by the lip and holding it up for a picture.
To fishermen and other liars, the time you spent on the docks, the banks, the boats, the lines you cast, and the hooks you set. These moments you share with the people you love, the fish you never forget, and the tales that get taller with every retelling. Make memories that'll last a lifetime with Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here.